The silence of the night was shattered by a sharp scream. Sandra woke up startled out of her sleep. She turned, only to see her husband, Patrick, sitting on the bed, drenched in sweat and trembling like a leaf in a storm. His eyes were wide and he was staring down at himself as though he had seen a ghost. "Patrick, what is wrong?" Sandra's voice trembled as she reached out to him. Patrick didn't speak at first. He pointed down below the sheets as his hand shook uncontrollably. His lips quivered, but no words came out. "Patrick, what is it?" Sandra's voice rose in panic. Sandra pulled back the sheets to look, and what she saw made her scream. Her husband's manhood was gone. Not injured, not disfigured, simply gone, as though it had never existed. Sandra clutched her chest, gasping for air. What is this?" she managed to ask. Patrick shook his head violently as his voice still trembled. "I don't know, Sandra, I don't know. I woke up and it was gone." Sandra wasted no time. She grabbed her phone and called an ambulance. Within minutes, the couple was rushing to the hospital. 2 months earlier, Patrick was a man who prided himself on his looks and confidence. He was a successful businessman in his mid-30s who was used to getting whatever he wanted. He had been married to Sandra for 5 years and would often travel for work, leaving his wife and young son back home in Lagos. It was during one of these trips to Port Harcourt that Patrick first heard about Annabelle. Annabelle was a beautiful young lady who had recently moved into town. She was rich, confident, and independent, such that she quickly became the talk of the area. She was tall, with flawless caramel skin and piercing hazel eyes. In summary, Annabelle was a vision of elegance. Men of all ages and statuses had tried their luck with her, but she rejected all their advances and would not accept anyone. Patrick was in Port Harcourt for a business deal that required him to stay for 2 months. He had a group of friends in Port Harcourt, mostly bachelors, who enjoyed spending their evenings drinking and chasing women. On one of such evenings, Patrick joined them at their usual spots in a lively bar near the city center. As they drank and laughed, suddenly the atmosphere in the bar shifted. Conversation stopped and heads turned towards the entrance. Annabelle had walked in and her presence commanded immediate attention. One of Patrick's friends, Tayo, nudged him. "That is her," he whispered, nodding towards Annabelle. Patrick raised an eyebrow. "Her who?" "Annabelle, the goddess of Port Harcourt," another friend, Chima, said in a reverent tone. Patrick laughed. "Goddess? She's just a woman." Tayo shook his head. "You don't get it. She's not like other women. This one is a box of gold. No man has been able to get close to her." Patrick smirked. "Is that a challenge?" His friends looked at themselves and laughed. "Patrick, don't even try. She's out of your league," Tayo said. Patrick's pride rose. "Out of my league? You must be joking. I have conquered women more beautiful than her. You remember how good I was back then, right?" Chima leaned forward. "Prove it then. If you can get Annabelle, 5 of us will each give you 1 million naira. But if you fail, you owe us 5 million. Patrick's smirk deepened. "Is that a bet? 5 million? You guys are really underestimating me." Tayo chuckled. "It is not about you, Patrick. It is about her. She is different." Patrick drained his glass and stood. "Different or not, she's just a woman. Consider your money as good as gone." The next few days, Patrick began observing Annabelle from a distance. He learned her routines, when she went shopping, where she had her drinks, and even the church she attended. He made little moves to place himself in her path and to always appear at the right place at the right time. One afternoon, Annabel was at a supermarket struggling to reach a jar on the top shelf. Patrick stepped in smiling. "Allow me," he said, as he retrieved the jar with ease. Annabel turned to him calmly. "Thank you." "It's my pleasure," Patrick said, flashing his most charming smile. "I am Patrick." "My name is Annabel," she said curtly before walking away. Patrick watched her leave undeterred. He loved challenges, and Annabel was proving to be an intriguing one. Over the next few weeks, Patrick found more ways to insert himself into Annabel's life. He helped her fix a flat tire, bought a bottle of champagne for her at the cafe, and even stood up for her when a man seemed to be harassing her. Slowly, Annabel began to warm up to him. They started having casual conversations, and Patrick used every trick in the book to make her laugh and feel comfortable. He fabricated an elaborate story about being a single man looking for true love, thereby painting himself as the perfect gentleman. One evening, after weeks of Patrick being consistent and persistent, Annabel invited him to her house for dinner. It was a small but tastefully decorated bungalow. Patrick was careful to play his part, complimenting her cooking and listening attentively as she talked about her passions and dreams. "You are different from other men," Annabel said softly. "You are genuine." Patrick smiled from within. "I feel the same about you, Annabel." Patrick's friends were astonished when he showed them a photo of himself and Annabel with their arms wrapped around each other. He had finally won her trust, and their relationship had turned physical and intimate. "I told you," Patrick bragged as he smiled over the 5 million naira his friends transferred to him. "There is no woman I can't have." But Patrick's victory was short-lived when his business in Port Harcourt came to an end, and he told Annabel that he needed to visit his family to discuss their future. She seemed reluctant but eventually agreed, looking forward to their future together when he would return. Back home in Lagos, Patrick slipped back into his role as a loving husband and father, leaving Annabel and his lies behind. But that same night, Patrick felt a strange heaviness in his body. He woke up to the horrifying realization that his manhood had disappeared, setting off a chain of events that would leave him fighting for his life. The hospital's emergency ward was filled with activity as Patrick was rushed in on a stretcher. Sandra held onto his hand in fear and confusion. The doctors quickly surrounded him, but their faces turned green as they examined his condition. "I have never seen anything like this before," Dr. Uche, the lead physician, said to his team. "His external genitalia is completely absent." Sandra was confused. "Absent? What do you mean? Is it hidden or injured?" Dr. Uche shook his head. "Mrs. Patrick, there is no injury, no trauma at all. It's as if it was never there." Patrick groaned on the stretcher. "Doctor, fix me. I don't care how. Just fix this, please." "We'll do our best," Dr. Uche assured him, even though his face betrayed his uncertainty. "But this is unprecedented." The initial scans revealed no answers. Specialists were then called in, but even they were baffled. Tubes had to be inserted into Patrick's body because he couldn't even urinate, as there was no natural channel for his urine to come out. Sandra's anxiety grew as she saw her husband battling for his life. Over the next few days, Patrick avoided Sandra's questions. Every time she asked what might have caused his condition, he deflected. "I don't know, Sandra. Stop asking me," he snapped one evening out of frustration. Sandra, who was already drained from sleepless nights at the hospital, began to cry. How can I not ask, Patrick? You are my husband. This is tearing me apart, and it seems you are keeping secrets from me. Patrick softened but still said nothing. Sincerely, he knew nothing. He had no idea what happened to him. He was just as confused as anybody about this. Meanwhile, the doctors were running out of options as Patrick's condition kept deteriorating. His inability to urinate naturally was causing complications, and even the surgeons were at a loss. The hospital bills were piling up, and the 5 million naira he had won from the bets was almost gone. 1 week after his hospitalization, Patrick had the most vivid and terrifying dream of his life. He found himself standing outside a massive ancient-looking mansion. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and there stood Annabelle, who was looking radiantly beautiful as always, but this time her eyes were cold. "Patrick," she called out as her voice echoed unnaturally. "Come." Patrick felt an invisible force pulling him forward. He wanted to resist, but his legs moved on their own. Inside the mansion, the air was thick and cold. Annabelle walked ahead, but her figure slowly started to transform, and by the time she reached the grand throne at the center of the room, she was no longer the young woman Patrick knew. She had become an old woman, and her face was lined with centuries of wisdom and power. She wore a white gown and a golden crown that seemed to glow. Patrick fell to his knees as a group of beautiful women appeared out of nowhere, bowing before Annabelle and chanting, "Queen Mother of the Sea, Queen Mother of the Sea." Annabelle's voice was sharp and commanding. "Patrick, Patrick," she repeated sarcastically, "the king of the ladies, my soon-to-be husband. You think you can use me and then run off to your pitiful wife with your ill-gotten millions?" Patrick, who was still on his knees, tried to speak, but his mouth refused to cooperate. Fear gripped his throat like a noose as Annabelle stepped closer to him. "First of all, let me give you a little introduction of myself. I am Queen Annabelle, the Queen Mother of the Daughters of the Sea. I have walked this earth for 250 years, Patrick. 250 years. She bent forward. "Do you know what that means?" Patrick could only shake his head weakly as sweat poured down his face. "It means I have met thousands of men like you, greedy, arrogant, foolish men who think they can take from me and then disappear." She laughed, a cold sound that echoed through the room. "You all think you are so clever, but in the end, you always pay the price. I try to help you people by refusing because you have no idea that death lies in between my legs. But you are all so headstrong. You always want to conquer." Patrick finally found his voice, even though it was small and trembling. "Please, Annabelle, I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear, Silence," she commanded, and Patrick's voice died mid-sentence. She straightened up and began pacing slowly. "You wanted your way, didn't you? I told you before I gave you access to me. Never sleep with another woman after me. That was our covenant." Patrick's mind raced. He remembered their first night together, the attractiveness of her beauty, and the strange intoxicating pull he couldn't resist. She had warned him, but he hadn't taken her seriously. After all, who believed in such superstitions in the 21st century? But now, as he knelt before her powerless, he realized the depth of his mistake. "You agreed to my terms, Patrick," Annabelle continued. "You agreed because you were blinded by your lust and greed. All you saw was my beauty, my body, and the millions your friends promised you could win. But tell me, Patrick, did you really think there would be no consequences? Annabel, please, Patrick begged. I will do anything. Just let me go back to my family, my wife. Annabel let out a sharp, mocking laughter. Your wife? Forget about her, Patrick. Forget about your life as you knew it. Forget about your manhood. She snapped her fingers and a glowing, transparent glass appeared midway, floating in front of Patrick. Patrick blinked at the sight as his heart pounded heavily. Inside the glass, suspended like a trophy, was his manhood. He blinked, hoping it was an illusion or a trick of the lights, but it wasn't. It was real. No, 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 Patrick cried. Yes, Patrick, Annabel said with satisfaction. I have it right here, and as long as I have it, no one can save you. Not your wife, nor the doctors. Patrick's cry echoed through the room. Annabel, I'll do anything you want. Just give it back to me. Annabel crouched down so that her face was close to his. Her expression was calm, almost pitying. Anything, she repeated. Do you know how many men have said those exact words to me? And do you know how many of them exactly meant it? I mean it, Patrick cried. I swear, please, I will do whatever it takes. Annabel studied him for a moment. Very well then, Patrick, she finally said. If you truly wish to redeem yourself, I will give you a chance. But know this, if you fail, the consequences will be far worse than what you face now. I won't fail, Patrick said desperately. I will do whatever it takes. Annabel stood up and waved her hand. The glass disappeared, but the image of it burned in Patrick's mind. Your task is simple, she said. You must serve me for 7 years. 7 years of complete loyalty. No lies, no betrayal, no distractions. If you succeed, I will consider returning what you've lost. Patrick's heart sank. 7 years? How could he leave his wife and family for that long? But what choice did he have? I agree, he said. Annabel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Good, then rise, my husband-to-be. Your new life begins now. As Patrick struggled to his feet, the room began to dissolve into darkness. Annabel's voice echoed in his ears. Remember, Patrick, the sea is vast and merciless. Betray me again, and it will swallow you whole. Patrick woke with a start. His body was drenched in sweat. He reached down instinctively, and his worst fears were confirmed. His manhood was really gone. Unfortunately, the nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. Sandra, who had been dozing on a chair nearby, rushed to his side. Patrick, what is it? What is wrong? Patrick flinched at the sound of her voice. He turned to her, still drenched in sweat. It is nothing, he muttered, avoiding her gaze. Nothing, Sandra asked. You are shaking, Patrick. Look at you. Tell me what is going on, please. But Patrick couldn't bring himself to speak. How could he tell her? How could he confess that his condition was as a result of his betrayal? He had gone after another woman, breaking every promise he had made to Sandra, and now he was paying the ultimate price. Shame washed over him like a tide of wave, leaving him feeling small and powerless. I am fine, he tried to convince her. Please go back to sleep. But Sandra didn't believe him. She knew better than to press though when he was in such a state. She watched him for a moment longer before speaking up. I'll have to get help. I will have to speak to someone. You can't keep suffering like this. The next morning, Sandra confided in her best friend, Rita, a Christian woman who always had a scripture or piece of advice ready for any situation. Sandra, Rita said after listening to the story, "This isn't just physical. I believe it is spiritual. There is something Patrick isn't telling you. You need to see someone who can help you get to the root of this." "Who?" Sandra asked, desperate for answers. The doctors have no idea what is going on. They have run every test and nothing makes sense. "There is a pastor I know," Rita said. "He has helped people in situations like this." "But Sandra, if Patrick is hiding something, he must confess so as to help break whatever hold is on him." Sandra hesitated. She had always believed in prayer, but this situation felt beyond her. Still, she had no other options. "Take me to him, please," she said. Later that day, Sandra and Rita sat in the office of Pastor Emmanuel. After hearing the details, the pastor leaned back in his chair. "This is not an ordinary affliction," he said. "Your husband is hiding something serious, and until he confesses, no amount of prayer or medical intervention will save him." Sandra's heart sank. She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was like a knife to her chest. "What do I do, Pastor? He won't talk to me. He keeps saying it is nothing, but I know it is something." "You must persist," Pastor Emmanuel said. "Pray for him. Encourage him. Only the truth can set him free." That evening, Sandra returned to the hospital to find Patrick still lying helpless on the hospital bed. "Patrick, I went to see a pastor today." Patrick's head snapped towards her with fear in his eyes. "Why would you do that?" he demanded. "Because I am worried about you. The doctors don't know what is wrong, and you are getting worse by the day." "Patrick, please, if there is something you are not telling me, you have to say it now." The pastor said. "I don't want to hear about any pastor," Patrick snapped angrily. Sandra looked at him as tears streamed down her face. "Patrick, look at yourself. You are wasting away. Please, if you love me, if you care about our family, tell me the truth." Patrick looked away. He couldn't do it. He couldn't bear the thought of Sandra knowing the truth that his betrayer had brought this curse upon him. So he remained silent. Day after day, Patrick's condition deteriorated. The doctors had given up as their tests yielded no answers. However, Sandra refused to watch her husband waste away without a fight. So she brought Pastor Emmanuel to the hospital. Patrick was lying in bed, frail and weak, when the pastor came in. "Patrick," Pastor Emmanuel said, "I am here to help you, but you must meet me halfway. Whatever you are hiding, you must confess it now." Patrick turned his head slowly, but his eyes were filled with fear. "You don't understand," he whispered. "If I tell you, she will kill me." "Who?" Sandra asked. "Patrick, who are you talking about?" Patrick shook his head. "She said, if I told anyone, I would die." Sandra was confused. "Patrick, what is it? What have you done?" Pastor Emmanuel stepped forward. "The truth has power, Patrick. You must trust in God's protection and speak the full truth. No one has a hold over you if you stand in the light." Patrick hesitated and his eyes darted around the room as though Annabelle might appear at any moment. Then suddenly, his body stiffened and his eyes widened in terror. "She's here," he whispered. She... Before he could finish, Patrick's body convulsed violently. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles Pastor Emmanuel had lit for prayer. Sandra screamed, clutching the pastor's arm. "Patrick," she cried. "Patrick, no!" But it was too late. Patrick's body fell still. His eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. Pastor Emmanuel stood beside Patrick. The battle was too much for him. The forces he was up against were powerful, but his silence gave them strength. Sandra collapsed to the floor, crying uncontrollably. If only he had opened up, perhaps he would have been saved. But no, Patrick was stubborn until death. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me and share what lessons you learned from this story. Share the story out with your loved ones too. Give this story a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories. Thank you and remain blessed.